So hi everybody, hi from Northern Ireland. I am in Ballymena in Northern Ireland, so about 25 miles north of Belfast. And I think you all know my name, you can see it, Yvonne Smyth, and I am a parent, a conscious parent coach and a single mum. I became a single mum in 2018 when I separated from my husband, and we have two boys who now are 10 and 11, but at that stage, different timing of the year, were 7 and 9. I think that there's 19 months between them. So I have been through the journey, still in the journey, it doesn't end, this journey. And I hooked up with Zoe, I think at the very early stages, I think of Frolo going on Instagram even. And I did a couple of Instagram lives with her, and obviously I resonate very much with the community and with all of us, and I offered to do this evening, and I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted that we had so many questions in advance. We have a long list of questions to get through, and hopefully we'll get through them all and get to any sort of additional questions you want to ask at the end. Now, what I want to say kind of at the very beginning is that I've had all these amazing questions through, very specific questions about how to deal with specific circumstances or events. And if I were to take all of those questions off the table and give you the most generic of advice, which is kind of the answer to all of your questions in a way, what I would say is the number one thing that I recommend anybody in this situation to do is to go on a self-healing journey. Because what is really important for all of us, no matter what our circumstances are, whether we're the one that ended the relationship or whether it was ended and we were left, we all have a healing journey to go on. I've kind of been in both of those camps because I ended my marriage after a lot of soul searching and in a place of incredible guilt, about doing that, but came to the conclusion that it was the right thing to do. But as I say, I went through terrible guilt and beating myself up, and it was the wrong thing to do, and it wasn't fair on the kids and all of that. So I went through all of that. Then I did a lot of kind of work on myself, shadow work, healing work, reparenting, all this sort of stuff. And about 6 months later, I came to a realization that actually maybe we could get back together. And I was very excited about that prospect. And we did actually get back together for a short period of time. And then I got dumped in favor of a woman that he had met kind of in the meantime. So I've been in both of those situations, and they're both horrible. And sometimes people assume that if you're the one that ended the relationship, well, you're all right then. But that's not the case, because I think if you've ended the relationship, you feel guilty. You feel that you've done the wrong thing for your kids, and there's a lot of healing that still needs to be done from that place. So for whatever camp you're in, there is a journey of healing to do and a journey of self-love. And what I say is that when you get to a place where you love yourself unconditionally, where you are free of guilt or shame or the horrible pain of rejection or whatever it is that is your pain, you end up being in a place of groundedness and sturdiness, and that's what your kids need, and that's what you need. And I talk about it like an oak tree. You want to be like an oak tree. You want to be grounded and sturdy, so that no matter what winds come blowing, whatever happens in your ex's life, whatever situations arise around your children, that you're sturdy and that you're providing this safe place for your children. So that's kind of my sort of overarching answer to every question, nearly, is to go on that journey. And however you do that, okay, so I'm going to recommend a couple of books to you first of all, okay. The Holy Grail to me, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Okay, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. That is one of my Bibles, quite literally. You know, you can see I've marked a page there. That's about the third time I'm reading this book, okay? You can pick it up, you can dip into it. It's very practical. There's lots of exercises you can do to tap into your own worthiness, to tap into your own love. It's a brilliant book. Another one, which is a bit more spiritual, a bit deeper, okay? If that's your bag, and it's called When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist monk. And it doesn't matter what religion you are, that's irrelevant to this book, to be honest. Don't get caught up in that. It's called When Things Fall Apart, Heart Advice for Difficult Times, and it's by Pema Chodron. So When Things Fall Apart. And that has just got the most beautiful essays in it. And again, you can pick it up and put it down anytime, because it's all just little different essays about how to deal with pain and you know, how to shift our perspective. And so that's another great book. So you can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you know, you can go and search in wherever you look for podcasts, put in self-love, put in self-healing, and find podcast episodes and find somebody who resonates with you. Listen to that. You can go on Instagram and put in hashtag self-love and follow some accounts that resonate with you. Listen to their Instagram lives, follow them, tap into that energy, that healing energy. You can go on workshops, online workshops. Everything's online these days, so it doesn't matter if you can't get to anywhere. There's workshops on self-love and self-healing. Or you can hire a coach. I hired a coach. I am a coach, but I hired a coach to help me through. What I would say is that without that coach, I would have been stuck for much longer. Okay, I hired a coach and got some support. So the self-love and the self-healing journey are really, really important. That's how you become grounded and sturdy. All right. And the other thing that I would say is, on a more kind of situational basis and more kind of tactical, is in every exchange that you have with your ex and with your children about difficult things or around difficult things, ask yourself this question: what energy am I bringing to bear in this situation? How am I showing up? We get so caught up in, what should I say in this situation? What should I do? How do I handle this scenario? How do I do this? What's the right thing? And actually, what's far more important than what should I be doing is, how should I be being? Does that make sense? Yeah, how should I be being? What energy am I bringing to this situation? Am I bringing calm, grounded, empathetic, conscious, mindful energy to the situation? I know this is hard. I'm not saying this is easy, okay? There's no part of me sitting here saying this is easy, and particularly if you're dealing with really difficult situations. But what energy are you bringing to the situation? Our kids pick up on our energy much more than they pick up on our words. We can say anything to them till we're blue in the face, but if our energy is chaotic, anxious, full of fear, full of worry, that's what they feel. That's what they feel. So we have to focus on our energy. So whatever, and I mean emotional energy, I'm not talking about our running around the place energy, okay? I'm talking about our emotional energy. And we have to find ways to manage our stress, okay? Our stress, and how to prevent burnout. And, you know, I have a Facebook group, and it's only for mums. I'm sorry, you dads. I have a separate Facebook group for my mums, but I am also on Instagram and all over the place that you dads can join as well. And I did a session last night on how to prevent burnout, and it was a longish session. But just as a general overview, there are specific scientifically proven things that reduce the stress chemistry in your body, which is the chemistry that causes you to react instead of respond, to go off the rails, to have zero perspective, to get all emotional and to get carried away, and stops you from being calm and sturdy. Some of them, the most important one you can do is to move your body. Okay, exercise is the single most important thing that removes stress chemistry from your body. So move your butts, guys. Move your butts, guys. Breath work is another thing. You can go on YouTube and search up breath work, but the very most simple methodology of breath work that you can do to reduce stress is to take 3 or 4 minutes every now and again throughout your day and do breath work where you breathe into your belly, breathe deep into your belly, and where your inhale is shorter than your exhale. So you maybe breathe in for 6, breathe out for 10. And how I breathe out more slowly than I breathe in is when I'm breathing out, I make a small opening and go. So you let the air out really gently. That scientifically reduces your stress level, and you can do that anywhere. Okay. Laughter is a great stress buster. It takes the chemistry out of your body. Find ways, watch something funny, listen to something funny, you know, tell jokes with your kids, horseplay with your kids, anything that gets laughter going. A good cry. I'd say most of us are good at that. Hands up. Yes, we're all good at a good old cry. Let it out. Let it out. Okay. Good old cry is one of the best ways as well. Another way is creativity. Any sort of creativity, whether that's music, art, baking, dancing, you know, any of those things that are creative all help to reduce stress. Connection. Okay, so connection with our loved ones, that can be physical connection with your kids or other loved ones, or in the case of me, I'm, you know, sitting here and I have no bubble and I have no partner. So I you know, other than my kids, you know, connection is talking to my friends. You know, I talk to one friend at least every day. I make a point of it. It's part of my day. I have a chat with a good friend, like a long-term friend who knows me and who I can be myself with. So that's just some tips on that. The other general tip I would say to you is to get very clear about what your intention, okay, what your intention is for your children. What do you want your children to experience? Whenever my husband and I separated, much as all that there was lots of differences, we were able to agree that what we wanted for our children was for them to feel safe, for them to feel secure, for them to feel loved, and for them to feel cared for. Okay. And the most important one nearly out of that is safety, emotional safety. We want them to feel safe and secure, that they were safe with me, they were safe with him, they were safe to express their feelings, they were safe to, you know, tell us anything that they wanted to tell us, that they were safe in the knowledge that none of this was their fault. So what is your intention? And again, every exchange you have, what's my energy? What energy am I bringing? And what is my intention? How do I want my children to feel in this situation? So that is the general gist. And as I say, I wanted to kind of put that at the beginning. So if those of you don't get to stay till the end, that will help you no matter what your question is. Or if we don't get a chance to get to additional questions, I thought that might be helpful. So Tam is going to ask me the questions now, I think.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Yvonne.
You're welcome.
So I've got the questions that were all either asked on Instagram when we asked them, or the ones that some of you have put on the meetup on the app. So first of all, how do you deal with kids unleashing emotions after a weekend at a strict parent's house?
Yeah, very common. And actually, it's not just about unleashing emotions after being in a strict parent's house, it's just been in a different environment. It's very, very common. So the first thing I would say, if your kids feel comfortable unleashing their big emotions with you, be very grateful, because your kid feels safe with you. And that's a fantastic testament to the relationship you have with your child. All right, they're not afraid to express their emotions, they're not afraid to unleash them. So first of all, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Okay, that's the very first thing. And then the second thing from a practical point of view is to simply hold space for those big emotions. Let them be, let them out. I use an acronym, which is LOVE. So listen, the L is for listen, listen, without judgment, without jumping in, without fear, without anything. Listen, observe, which simply means be present. Get off your phone, be present with your child, observe their body language as well as listening to their words. Validate whatever they're feeling, whatever craziness is going on. And often what happens is they come back, and it's not that they express something to do with them being away or the transition or anything else. It's like, you give them the green cup instead of the blue cup, and they have a big tantrum. And all that is because they had all this emotion building up in them and they let it out. And you just validate whatever it is that's going on to them. Oh, you wanted the blue cup. Oh, and you got the pink cup. That's really hard. Now, that's a really basic thing. But whatever it is, whatever they bring up, it's like, oh, you just kind of validate, oh my goodness, yeah, you wanted this, or this happened, or that didn't happen. Oh, that was hard for you. I get it. I hear you. I'm here for you. I love you. That's it. Validate and empathize are kind of go hand in hand. So let them be. Don't try to talk them out of any of their feelings. And this is not just to do with transitions, just generally. Whenever children are expressing big emotions, it's their best attempt to communicate something or other. And it may not be resourceful, and it may be all over the place, and they may not have the words for what they're feeling, and they may tell you all sorts of things like they used to do with me. I hate you, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. You just grounded and sturdy. Yeah, I hear you. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Come here. Can I give you a hug? No? Okay. How can I help you? How can I support you? I'm here for you. Would you like a snack? Just pour love all over it. Just pour love all over it. All right. So that's kind of that one.
Brilliant. The next one then is, do you have any tips for good co-parenting?
Write a book. This could be a 10-hour sort of session all in itself. But, I suppose the single most important thing is the energy of the relationship with the co-parent. And that goes back to your kids pick up on the energy. So you are, and I suppose there's a question between, are you really co-parenting or are you just sharing custody? There's a huge difference, okay? Co-parenting means you make decisions together. It means you consult each other. It means that you have made some agreements about how you are parenting and how you want to raise your kids, even though you're not together anymore. So true co-parenting is where you are in agreement about how you're raising your kids. And that involves discussion and agreement, particularly around your values, okay? Your values and how you want to raise your kids. What's important? What can you agree on as shared values for how you want to raise your kids? How would you like your kids to turn out? And how are you going to show up for them, even though you're in separate houses and in separate sort of arrangements? And go back to, again, that whole point of what is your intention? Do you have a shared intention? Can you have a shared intention with your co-parent for how you want to show up for your kids and how you want to support them? And it's going back to that, for me, safe, secure, loved and cared for. Those the basic sort of values. Also maybe agree what kind of decisions are co-parenting decisions and what ones are not, in terms of, like easy ones might be what school your kids go to, or if they're at a stage where they're picking subjects, is that something we do together? That's so you kind of agree. And things like holidays, how does that work? And are they free? At the minute, none of us are going anywhere, so that hasn't been a worry for the past year. But what are the agreements around what's okay to just decide yourself, or what do you need to agree on? And if in doubt, have a conversation. Okay, because I've been in situations where maybe I have made decisions, and so has my ex, that the other person expected to be consulted on and weren't. So now I'm in a case of, and so is he, if in doubt, pick up the phone. If in doubt, pick up the phone. If in doubt, have a conversation, communicate, to make sure that you're kind of, and it takes time as well to kind of sort that out. So it depends on where in the journey you are. Keep lines of communication open. You know, that's the thing. Keep the lines of communication open if you can. You know, depending on where you are in the journey, like in the early stages of our journey, we probably would have had a very specific telephone conversation once a week about what was going on that week, what was working, what wasn't working. We don't do that anymore because we don't need to. Okay, so it depends on where you are at the journey. You might need to have that. You might need to have a monthly conversation, or, you know, depending on the age of your kids, and also how good your relationship is with your ex, you might have family meetings about stuff. So it all just depends on the relationship, and, as I say, on what stage kind of you're at as well. One thing that I learned as well is to keep the children in the loop of the arrangements that were being made. And sometimes that kind of got forgotten, and my ex would make arrangements about things and they maybe didn't know. And my eldest child in particular, who's 11, hates surprises, hates anything not being the way it's supposed to be. And he has to know in advance what days he is with me and what days he's with his dad. His dad works in hospitality, so it's not the same days every week, you know, so it's not just set in stone. He has to have notice of that in advance. And the kids like to know when they're going there, when they're coming here, what's happening, what's going on, and that has become very important for them as well. And again, depending on the kid's age, like mine, as I say, are 10 and 11. And you know, I ask them, what's working for you and what's not working for you? You know, what's working about this arrangement? You know, is there anything you want that's you're finding hard, or that you would like to change if you could? And yeah, at the beginning, they used to say, yeah, well, you just get back together. So it's like, no, I don't mean that big of a change. But you know, it's like they are kind of old enough to be able to tell us, for example, that they like it better when they have, because they spent 4 nights with me and 3 nights with their dad. They like it better when it's 3 nights in a row with their dad rather than toing and froing, even though he only lives around the corner. That's not possible all the time with the job he has. But keeping them in the loop and taking sort of, you know, even things about, you know, they prefer going in an evening rather than in a morning, and what times, and they also prefer him to pick them up and drop them off. They don't like me, for whatever reason, doing the pickups and the drop-offs. So you can ask them, you know. And my kids, as I say, were 9 and 7 when they started, and even at that stage, you know, we were asking them what's working, what feels better than, you know, this. So you can kind of include them. So there's some very generic kind of tips. So yeah, that's that one.
Brilliant. I think there's some really good tips there. The next one is kind of along the same thing. So how do you support a baby with transitioning between houses as opposed to maybe an older child?
You know, when I read that one, I nearly cried, you know, because hard and all as it is for me to let my, you know, then 7 and 9-year-old disappear from my sight, the thought of it being a baby, honest to God, whoever asked that question, my heart goes out to you. I really, honest to God, I'm nearly in tears thinking about it. But okay, so go back to your energy around transitions. Okay, so babies, even more so than older children, pick up on our energy because they don't yet understand language. They don't understand words. All they understand is tone of voice and energy. You know, what they pick up on our energy. If you're feeling scared, anxious, worried, upset, the baby will pick up on that. So it is so critical with a baby in particular to manage that energetic state. Okay, that is really, really crucial. And simple things like being well prepared, so that whenever there is the transition, you're not trying to grab things. Maybe you have a specific, this is just practicals, of a specific bag that you have packed, and maybe you have a list of all the things that need to go in it every week, so you're not fretting around at the last minute trying to pick things up, and that you kind of have that ready in advance so that you can be really present with your baby before you're handing them over, so that you're not picking things up and sorting things out, that there's none of that going on pre-transition. Obviously simple things like a favorite cuddly or blanket go with the child, but here's a great tip, because when my first child was 6 weeks old, I had to work, I had to do some work, and I had to go to work 1 day a week, so I had to find a childminder for him at that age, and it was like, oh my God. And what I used to do was stick his cuddly down my chest for the hour before, you know, I was handing him over to the childminder, so that my scent was on it. And that's a really lovely thing to do before you kind of hand over baby. Get their favorite cuddly or you know, their blankie or whatever it is that they have, and have it close to your body for about an hour beforehand, and then put that with them so that they have part of you kind of going with them. And then have something planned for yourself, because otherwise you're going to be sitting there crying your eyes out. I would imagine. And maybe that's not where this person is, but I can only imagine how difficult that is. So to me, it would be very important to have something planned, even if it's just a bubble bath and an afternoon glass of fizz in the bath, or whether it's a walk, or whether it's a chat with a friend, or binging on Netflix, you know, with some snacks or whatever it is, but something for you, so you're not sitting there. Because I noticed this wasn't a night time, this was just for the day, so that you're not spending the whole day, you know, worrying and anxious, and then by the time the child comes back, that's the energy you're giving out. Fill your cup in the day when they're away, so that when they come back, you're just full of love and full of, you know, you've looked after yourself during that day.
Thank you so much. Then the next one is ex-husband has a new girlfriend. Children have met her. Do I meet her? I feel envious that she's with my girls, and how do I deal with that?
Whew. Yeah. Been there, still on there. Okay, so I guess the first thing is it depends. This is kind of a very much it depends question. If this is a new girlfriend that isn't living with the ex-partner, do you need to meet them? You know, part of it is, are you ready to meet them? Okay, are you emotionally sturdy enough to meet them, or is it going to just knock you for six? Okay, and is it really important that you meet them? Are you believing I should meet them because that's the right thing to do, that's the magnanimous thing to do, that's the no, you don't have to do any of that. You can do what feels good to you. I mean, I'll be honest with you, as I say, my ex has been seeing somebody else now for 2 years. Now, it's a different situation because I knew her beforehand and I didn't like her ever. So I have nothing to do with her, nothing whatsoever. She's not living with my ex-husband. So my kind of take is, unless and until they're living together, I don't need to sit down and have a conversation with her. Can't stand her. Okay, hands up, you know, spiritual and all that I am. And she has, you know, tried to get me to meet her, and I won't. I have no interest in meeting her. I have nothing to say to her at this point. She is not a parental influence in my children's lives, so so it doesn't bother me. Okay, it's let her do her thing, and I'll do mine. But it depends, and there's no right or wrong answer to this. But I think I would tap into: are you believing you should meet this person? Or do you want to meet them? Would you prefer to meet them so that when your kids are talking about her, you know, you know who she is? And would that be helpful, or would it not be helpful? You know, is it necessary? Is it necessary at this stage? You know, just feel into your own intuition about, you know, there's two things. One is, if you can't cope with it and it's going to be too difficult for you, well, then you don't have to do it. But equally, there's another side to that, which is, it's hard to hate somebody up close. Okay, because you know, people, when you get to know somebody, it's harder to hate somebody if you actually get to know them a bit better. And if that's where you are, maybe that's what you want to do. So there's no right and wrong answer to this, whether you should or you shouldn't. But I think the should word needs to be taken out of the equation and really tap into, you know, what feels right. Do the kids need, like, if the kids are old enough that they're asking you and saying you should, or that your ex is putting you under pressure and you feel that your kids are getting a negative view of you because you won't, well, then maybe you might decide to, but you don't have to. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to. The second part of that question was, I feel envious that she's with my girls. How do I deal with that? That's the self-healing. You know, I am the same. I really do not like my ex's girlfriend spending time with my kids. I don't like it. And I don't know any parent in the land who would feel any different. So it's kind of normal. But again, it's about, you know, if you are in a place where you have done your self-healing, you're not, it's never done, but you're on that journey, you are loving yourself, you are grounded and sturdy, the thought of someone else spending time with your kids has less of an impact on you. It's like, yeah, let her do her thing. The most important thing is how you relate to your children and the relationship you build with your children. And nobody will ever replace a child's mum or a child's dad. That is the truth of the matter. Okay, so you can kind of let go of that part of it. So I hope that's helpful.
No, that's fantastic advice. Thank you. The next question is, my 3-year-old boy is very physically rough. How do I calm things?
Okay, make sure he has plenty of outlet for his energy, you know, whatever that is. 3-year-old boys are all physically rough, in my opinion. Okay, I have had two 3-year-old boys, and they were both, even though they're very different, and my older one now is much quieter. Yeah, physically rough, you know, climbing and jumping and hitting, and you know, but make sure there's an outlet for the energy. And I know that it's hard in these current times because there's lots of things that we can't do and places we can't go, like soft play at that age where they would get their energy out. But there needs to be lots of opportunities to get their physical energy out, whether that's trampolining or going for long walks in the forest or the woods, or you know, playing tag, or whatever it is, roughhousing, playing tickle, whatever it is the child needs, you know, kicking football, whatever it is, that they need an outlet for their energy. Another thing is, if there's an element of the roughness is maybe anger coming out, that again, that's normal. A 3-year-old will have no real understanding of the practicalities of what's going on, but they will feel that there is a change, and they will understand the difference between transitions from one house to another and all of that. And 2 things in particular I would recommend for that is, number 1, child-led play. In fact, every one of you here, child-led play, 15 minutes a day of child-led play where your child controls what you do. That is one of the deepest forms of connection you can have with your child. It builds your connection and builds their trust in you and their relationship with you. And it simply is where every day you have what's called, you call it special time, and you schedule it, and it's 15 minutes, and they tell you what they want you to do. So they decide. So it could be, in this house, it's Nerf guns or playing with Lego figures, which is the thing I hate doing, but I'll do it. Or it could be going outside and playing football, or it could be dodgeball, or it could be me sitting watching them play Fortnite, which they do, or Rocket League, or whatever other games. That's the age my kids are at. But every day, a 15-minute connection where the child decides what is happening, and you are not deciding in any way, shape, or form, and they're leading it, because that gives your child some power. And a lot of times, anger coming out of children is because they have lost power, and particularly in a situation where 2 people have separated, but the child was powerless in that separation, and giving them back power and agency in their lives on a day-to-day basis takes some of that back for them. And then on a general level, choices, giving your child choices. And it can be as simple as, do you want to put your trousers or your t-shirt on first? Do you want to brush your teeth when you get up straight away, or after your breakfast? Do you want to go for a walk now or after lunch? Any choices you can give your child, even at 3, are really helpful ways of giving them some control and agency in their lives, which really helps with anger in particular and frustration and all of that. The other thing I would then, on the other flip side of that, is making sure you weave other quiet time as well in, wind down times, and, things that I do with my kids would be back rubs. I give them back rubs, or as they call them, massage. It's a very fancy name. I'm not a massage, but, they get a back rub, reading to them, guided visualizations. My kids love this, and I've done this with them since we're quite young. And simply, often at night when they're kind of going to sleep, I'd be like, close your eyes and imagine that you're in a beautiful forest, and bring in all their senses, and you can hear the birds are tweeting, and you can hear the wind rustling in the trees, and you're walking along in this forest, and you see a squirrel going up the tree, and you just bring this story to life that they are in, that they are the main part in, and tell them how they're feeling. It's very important. And you're feeling calm and free, and you can feel the breeze on your face, and the sun is shining. And that's a really powerful way to connect with your kid and also to calm them down. There's also mindfulness activities, that you can do for kids as well that are really helpful if kids are very active. Again, I would just say look those up online. You'll find loads of them all over the place, of little mindfulness activities, breathing activities, and all sorts that you can do with them.
Brilliant. I love that way of looking at it. Thank you. How do you let go of the family you thought you'd have and embrace what you do have?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it, folks? If we could bottle that, we'd be millionaires. That, kind of also comes back to the whole self-healing journey. You have to commit to going on that journey and to not staying in that place. Now, you obviously have to allow yourself time to heal and time to grieve. That's normal. Grieving a loss, it is a loss, it's grief, but also you have to be very intentional about shifting your orientation from the past into the future. You're very intentional and go on that self-healing journey. It's all about healing yourself. Practicing gratitude is another one that I would kind of add in there. Very intentionally practicing gratitude. Have a journal by your bed, and before you go to sleep every night, write down 3 things that you're grateful for in that day. I don't mean 3 things that you're grateful for in your life. Like, you don't write down your kids every night, or your health, or your very specific things. So you're grateful for, the fun you had with your kid that day playing dodgeball, or you're grateful for the lovely dinner you had that day, or whatever it is. Write 3 things every night. You wire your brain for gratitude, so you wire yourself to notice and appreciate what you have rather than what you haven't. And then another interesting thing that you could do is do something for yourself, something that you've always wanted to do but never have done, like learn an instrument, or do a course, learn a skill. Like, everything is available to us so easily now. Like on YouTube, for example, you can learn how to do anything, whether it's, you don't even have to pay money nowadays to learn how to play instruments, or do cake decorating if that's something you want to do, or learn a skill, or do a course. Places like Udemy is a great place to do courses, udemy.com. There's fantastic courses on there, anything from technology to life coaching to parenting courses to anything there is on there, mindfulness, and every kind of couple of months they have sales on, and everything is $9.99. And it's great. So do something for yourself that's just for you, that isn't about your role as a parent, that you didn't do when you're with your partner. Reconnect with who you were before, and something that you'd really love to do that's just for you, because you'll feel very proud of yourself, and it's something kind of to help you move forward, rather than kind of stay stuck in the past.
The next question, and I've also had one that links really nicely with it sent on the chat now. So the question I had is, how do you deal with inconsistency in regards to routines from home to home? And then someone has sent me a direct message on here saying that her son can kind of do whatever he wants when he's at his dad's. And there's no rules, there's, can kind of just get away with things. And then when he comes home, he's quite naughty and says he just wants to go back there because his dad lets him do anything. And obviously mum's trying to put some boundaries in place.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's very common, and you know what I liken it to is, let's imagine you have two jobs, and for half the week you work in an environment that is, say, very strict and has a culture that's very hierarchical and whatever, and then you work in a different, you go to work in Google then for the rest of the week, where it's, they have ping pong, and you don't have to work set hours, and you can come and go as you please, and it's, your child has to transition from one to the other. So I think the first thing to understand is to have empathy for the child. Okay, this wasn't the child's choice. All right. And this is a bit like, as I say, yeah, they've gone to Google for 3 days of the week or 2 days or whatever it is, and they're used to playing ping pong at 12 o'clock at night, when you would have them tucked up in their bed at 7. So first of all is to have some empathy for the child and for the child's situation, that they didn't choose this. Okay, they didn't choose it. And they are just adapting to the environment that they're in. It also, I suppose, goes back to what sort of relationship you have with your ex. Can you have a conversation? If you've had that conversation about values, like my ex and I, talk about the value of having the kids in bed by a certain time, and because I explain the impact it has on them if that doesn't happen, even about food and nutrition and stuff like that, it still is not the same. I would have more kind of, not boundaries so much, but I would have more kind of intentionality around that. And it is difficult, and ultimately you can have the conversations as I have done and try to kind of agree and influence, but ultimately you have to let go of what you can't control. And that's what I've had to do. My kids come home and tell me they were eating McDonald's and Subway and, for the whole 3 days. And it's like, okay, I can't control that. And I'm not going to waste my energy trying to control that. I am going to control what I can control, which is what happens under my roof. That's it. Just let go, let the hell go. And when you go on this journey, this healing and self-love journey, that starts to become very easy, because it becomes about, no, I love me and I am very happy with how I show up, and that's really important. And my relationship with my children and what I do for them is really important. And unless my children are actually exhibiting some pretty, severe repercussions of this other arrangement, then I have to let go of it. I was listening to, I don't know whether any of you follow a lady called the Divorce Goddess on Instagram. I was listening to a live that she did with the family lawyer that you have had on various times, Tam, on Frolo. And she said this really great thing: don't live in your ex's backyard in your head. Okay, get out of it. All right, just don't live there. That's not where you live. Live at home under your own roof with your own kids. So you have to let go of control and focus on what you can control. If you're concerned about your children's safety, yeah, that's a different thing. If it's a safeguarding issue, but for the most part it isn't. It's like, they feed them rubbish food, or they don't put them to bed on time, or they don't have rules around use of tech, or you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. And when the child comes back and comes into a different environment, like that question you've just had, Tam, and you're putting in boundaries, you again hold space for the big emotions. Yes, I know it's hard that I won't let you do whatever it is. I know it's hard that I won't let you be on tech all day, but two things are true. I understand that and I get it, but it's not happening. You hold your boundaries unemotionally. You said two things can be true at the same time. You can be upset about that, but it's still happening. And it's okay to be angry. Yeah, you absolutely be angry. I hear you and I get it, and I know it's difficult, but this is how things are in this house. You just have to hold it, but hold it unemotionally, And it is hard, but remember, it's hard for the child. it's so hard for them because, you know, they're getting one thing and then coming back to something else. And, you know, generally the person who puts more boundaries in place is the big bad wolf, you know, but it's only for a moment because our children actually thrive on not loads of boundaries. I'm not a big fan of loads and loads of boundaries and rules at all. I have to admit, you know, that's not where I come from. I like my children to have a lot of choice and a lot of agency. I do have some boundaries around their use of tech. And yeah, my kids can kick that back at me at times, but I'll tell you something, when you know that the thing has been working. One day last week, my eldest, who's 11, was on the phone to one of his friends who was trying to get him to go back on tech and said, no, come on, can you come play Fortnite with me? And I had already said there was no more gaming for the rest of the day. And my son was saying, no, I can't. And he didn't know I was listening, okay? No, I can't. My mum says no. And his friend was going, well, why? Why can't? That's not right. Just go and ask her. You know, that's not okay. That's unreasonable. He was pushing. And my son turned around and went, no, my mum has decided, and I'm not going to disrespect my mum. So no. Now that's when you know that doing the right thing is doing the right thing, even though it's hard. Okay, so that's kind of my answer to that one.
Oh, that's so lovely that your son said that.
Yeah.
The next one then is advice on how to balance the needs of two children with very different personalities and how to support a child with low self-esteem or low confidence.
Okay. Right. I have two children with very different needs. One is very, very active, very in your face, has no concept of personal boundaries. And I have one who has a big concept of personal boundaries, as in keep out of my space, don't get in my face, likes things to be quieter. So I am in that space. Now, depending on the age of your children, you can have conversations with your kids about needs and preferences. Okay, so I have those conversations with my kids. You are very different. You know, what do you need? What are your preferences? And you don't have that conversation at the point where they're killing each other because they're doing the thing that annoys the other person. We have it at other times, which is about, okay, we all have different needs and preferences. And I talked about the three of us, okay? And it's like, these are the things, this is how I like to be treated. And then, okay, how do you like to be treated? This is how I like to be treated. And then, yeah, this is how I like to be treated. And what do you not like? And what do you not like? And what do you like? And what, and that's, you have a conversation about what people need. Now, it doesn't always work. I have to remind my kids, especially my youngest at night, when I'm exhausted and when the elder one really wants to quiet down and read his book and whatever, he's up dancing and spitting in your, not spitting in your face, but raspberrying in your face, and kind of, and you're having to remind him, come on, Marco, remember, Max doesn't like that. That doesn't work for him. And he'll go, yeah, but why not? It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter to you, but it matters to him. So we respect each other's preferences and the things that each of us like. And I'm the same. You know, it's like I am a HSP, a highly sensitive person, and loud noises actually make me kind of jump, you know. And again, so it's like, yeah, you want to make those sorts of noises, take them outside. Yeah, you need to take that outside, you know. Or so again, and it's like I have needs, like the kids have this joke that mummy needs to go for a walk every day to keep her sane. Yeah, so it's like mummy needs her sane walk, you know, because I start to get irritated if I don't get out of the house and get into the fresh air. So that's one of my needs, and that has to be met each day as well. Even if they huff and puff, don't want to go, yeah, well, no, we're doing it. Yeah, we're doing the things you want to do, and we're meeting your needs. These are my needs. And then, as I say, it's also about the needs and preferences of how you are, the behavior, you know, the loudness, the quietness, the in your face, the way we speak to each other, the language that we use. You know, my eldest is sensitive, which is his superpower, but it also means that he's easily wounded, and the younger one, you know, says things, and it's like I teach him that instead of saying that's crap, to say I don't like that, or that doesn't work for me, as you know. So you just have to kind of teach this and model this. And if the kids are too young to kind of have them help figure this out themselves, then you just have to figure it out. You have to figure out as a parent what their needs and preferences are and try to balance the environment that everyone's needs and preferences are met. But even if your kids are very young, you can still use that language and talk to them and say, yes, I know that this is not what you'd prefer to be doing now, but this is what the other child prefers to be doing. And when later on, we're going to do that thing you want to do, which is more active. But at the moment, we're going to sit and we're going to have some quiet time because that's what X needs. And it's difficult, but it can be done. And then the second one was about how to support a child with low self-esteem or confidence. Fill their cup up with appreciation and love. Just fill their cup up. Don't worry about it, because your worry sends a message to them that there's something wrong with them, which makes it worse. Okay, so you don't worry about it, or you don't talk to them about self-esteem or confidence. You don't use those words with them whatsoever. Take the heat off, but spend time with your children, you know, very intentionally telling them how wonderful they are. And I don't mean wonderful at things. I don't mean what they're good at, or, you know, achievement or sports or grades, or no, you are such a gorgeous human being. The world is a better place because you are in it. You make me laugh every day. You're such a great friend. You're such a wonderful brother. You're so kind. You're so generous. You have such a big heart. You're so thoughtful. You know, all that appreciation for who they are, and use opportunities to do that. You know, that is very, very, very important. What I say is point them in the direction of their own worth and their own strengths. If there's things that they're really good at, yes, you can point them in the direction of that. But when I say things they're really good at, I tend to not try to focus on achievement-oriented things like grades or sports, or it's more like, you are really good at being a good friend. You know, you are really good at noticing when one of your friends is upset and comforting them. You are really good at, but it's about who they're being, again, as opposed to what they're doing. Because again, that helps them to focus on the work that's inside of them, irrespective of external measures. It teaches them to measure themselves by their own kind of self-worth. And then another thing I've written down here is support them in developing skills if they are interested in something. So if they're interested, say, in, like my eldest would be a bit like this, you know, with self-worth and whatever. So he started doing drum lessons in school last year. So we got drums for Christmas. And of course, now his drum lessons are not happening because we're off with school again. But it's like, you know, it's like, do you want to, you know, I've sort of encouraged him in that direction, because the next door neighbor is actually in a band as well. And he says he's good at it, you know, and he enjoys it. So, you know, I've encouraged him, well, you know, what do you want to do with these drums now? You know, do you want to download an app, or is there something you might want to watch on YouTube? So encourage things where they have kind of strengths and capabilities. Encourage them in the direction of things that they enjoy, that they can gain competence in. Competence is a really good word to try and help your child to be competent or more competent at something they enjoy. Not about schoolwork, or, you know, it's the drums or baking or drawing or football, whatever it is, you know, whatever, but something they enjoy. Encourage them and support them to gain greater competence. That's that one.
Perfect, thank you. I've got another one here then. So solo parents where the father has no involvement, any advice on having conversations around that with your children?
Right, so this one stumped me because I have no personal experience. So I rang a woman who can, one of your community, Orla Veronica. She's in the community, but she's in Northern Ireland. She's near me, and I knew that was her situation. So I rang her today and asked her about that situation. And she said that what she has, her son is 8, I think Elliot's 8. And she has said that she's just always allowed a safe space for questions and to have a conversation. And what she has been very mindful of doing is making sure that she's not uncomfortable with the conversation. And that comes back to our kids picking up on what we feel as opposed to what we say. So she's been kind of open and honest and made sure that it feels safe to ask questions, that questions are not shut down. She answers as honestly as she can. Like I was asking her some specifics, and like she was telling me that, you know, when he asked her, why don't I have a dad? You know, why is my dad not in my life? You know, I don't really know why. You know, maybe he wasn't ready. Yeah, that might change one day. You know, she also pointed to the fact that he has uncles and grandparents. So, you know, there's other kind of male role models. And also things like there are different types of families, and there's lots of books out there about different types of families, you know, single parent families and families where, yes, there are two parents, or families where there's two men as parents or two women as parents, or where grandparents are involved. So it's kind of about normalizing as well that not every family is a mum and dad and the kids, you know. So I think that's kind of an important thing too. So as I say, I'm not an expert on that, but I did ring Orla today, and that's kind of her biggest thing was make sure there's a safe space for the conversation to take place, and that you don't shy away from any question, and that you don't react emotionally to questions, that the child knows that you're not uncomfortable and that it's safe.
Thank you, that's great advice. I'm conscious of time, but we've got 2 more questions that were asked on the meetup ahead. Are you all right to do those, Yvonne?
Oh, I'm fine, yeah.
Yeah. I've got one then. How do I help a child through the trauma of separation when she's been told to keep secrets and feels that she needs to protect me?
Okay, just before I answer that, if you don't mind, I'm going to pop in here in the message in the chat box the link to my Facebook group, just for any of the mums who want to join, because I see sort of somebody has to leave already, and just to make sure that that's there if anyone wants to. Hang on, that's not right. To everyone, just so that's there if anyone wants to grab it at this stage. Right, so yeah, I think the first thing is we need to be mindful of our language. That if we use the word trauma, we are attaching trauma to the separation event. And in the same way as I never use the language broken home. My home was more broken when we were together than it was apart. So I don't subscribe to broken home, for example. And I think most of us don't subscribe to broken home. When we use the word trauma, we are kind of subscribing to it being a trauma. And, you know, if you actually look at, I have done a lot of research about trauma, and trauma is much less about what happens to a person than the support they had in processing what happened to them. Okay, so that's a really important point. The trauma is not the thing that happens. The trauma is about the inability or the lack of support in processing it. So you have a separation, and yeah, like my kids in the beginning, crying, you know, all sorts of stuff, very, very difficult, but they got support. Every question they asked was answered. Every tantrum, every, outburst was supported, was held space for. And I'm not saying in the best possible way at all times, because at the beginning I was a mess too, okay? So there's no perfection here, but they were always listened to. They were always allowed to say what they wanted to say. They were always allowed to process their feelings. And like, I remember even one night, my eldest was like having a big go at me. I hate you, Mom, I hate you. And I know what that's all about, because they hate the people who've broken up the family. I hate you, you know, and I hate Daddy, and I, you know, all this. And then he got himself into a real state and got really upset, and I was just kind of there and being with him and listening to him and then holding him, and eventually he like then broke into tears. The anger went, and it was big tears, and he goes, Mommy, I don't know why I'm being so horrible to you. Why am I saying those things? And I go, I know why, darling. Why? Because hurt people, and you're hurt, darling. I know you're hurt. Of course you're hurt. This is not what you wanted, and you had no control over it, you know. I get it. I am here. I get it. I get it 100%. So, you know, it's, if you hold space for your kids and you hold space for their big feelings, support them, they won't come out of this with a trauma response stuck inside them. Okay, they won't. You know, I don't know whether any of you have ever heard of the ACEs report, which is adverse childhood experiences, and there's like these list of all these things, you know, and their adverse childhood experience, and one of them is, you know, divorce or separation. But it doesn't have to turn into a trauma, you know, if it's processed properly, if they have the right support to process. So that's the first thing I would say, you know, try and kind of shift your language. You know, it doesn't have to be a trauma. Yes, it has been a traumatic experience, but it doesn't have to be something that haunts the child in future life and that they've suffered trauma if you support them as they go through it. The bit about being told to keep secrets and feel she needs to protect me, stay out of that. Just stay out of it. If the child sort of says something, like this has happened with me. The child is, oh, mommy, oh, no, I can't. I better not tell you that because you'll be upset. I better not tell you that. And I go, yeah, that's fine. You don't have to tell me anything. You don't have to tell me anything. I'm here. Anything you want to tell me, my ears are open, but you do not have to tell me anything. That's it. So you keep it light. The energy around any of that, keep it light. Just keep it light. Don't get into it. Don't badger your child to tell you something. If they say, oh, no, mommy, I was told I couldn't tell you that. That's fine, honey. That's fine. You tell me what you feel comfortable with telling. I don't need to know anything. I don't need to know anything. And then they'll tell you. What actually happens is they tell you because you take the pressure off. Whereas if you say, no, no, you need to tell me. What is it? Tell me. No, tell me. Then you're just pushing them away. Okay, so keep it light and focus on your relationship with your child. All you can control is your relationship with your child, how you support them through whatever difficulties they are. Stay in your own backyard. Stay in your own backyard.
Brilliant. Then I've got, how do I deal with a very active 10-year-old who enjoys being out? I have always kept myself to myself, so it's very difficult to socialize sometimes, and my son is the opposite. He's the best thing that has ever happened to me, but at the moment I am so lost.
Okay, I'm just sticking my Instagram in here as well, just in case anyone wants it. Yeah, that's hard. Let me see. I had a look at that, and you know, it's kind of hard. And I think this is exacerbated in these times because you're it's you and your kids, and there's hardly anyone else. Maybe you're in a bubble with somebody, but outside of that, there's very kind of little you can do. But you know, if we kind of take global pandemics out of the way, you know, I would be encouraging the child to join some clubs and do some activities where they can socialize and the parent doesn't have to. So whether it's I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but like whether it's football or gymnastics or, you know, whatever, different things, judo or, you know, any kind of activities that the child can go to and that the parent doesn't have to go to outside, as I say, of this pandemic. Play dates, you know, again, I know we can't do them at the minute, but, you know, as simple as play dates, you know, where they can have their kids to come and the kids can go elsewhere. Frolo meetups, you know, fellows, you know, and again, I know they're all online at the minute, but, you know, and so they're not necessarily so much for the kids. Maybe you do have stuff with the kids, but, you know, whenever, you know, restrictions are lifted, at least you're meeting like-minded people. And okay, if you find it difficult to socialize with people, at least they're kind of people who are in the same sort of situations, that might help. And then, yeah, just meeting up with friends, maybe who have kids as well. Again, all the stuff I said earlier about an active child, making sure they have outlets for their activity, you know, whatever that is. And play yourself, you know, with a child. That's an important thing, you know, is playing. Like I play Nerf Wars, dodgeball, football, you know, tag, you know, all sorts of things that help with the activity. When the kids are with me where I live, they have nobody to play with now at the minute. When they're with their dad, they have friends they can play outside with. So I'm having to substitute a lot of the activity here at the minute, which is fine, you know, considering the situation we're in. But that's a tough one. I suppose also I would say, you know, this person has said, you know, I've always kept to myself, so it's very difficult for me to socialize. I'm sensing that person could do with a bit of healing work themselves, because maybe, you know, it's a lack of self-confidence that's making them feel they don't want to meet other people, or a lack of self-worth, or feeling they don't belong, or whatever. So again, a bit of kind of going on that self-healing journey would probably help that parent as well.
No, definitely. Thank you. I've got one last question that's come through, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
How to deal with a change to week on / week off without any transition when the other parent is not open to regular phone contact to make it easier on the child. So I'm assuming this person, their child is with one parent for 1 week and one parent for another week.
And they're not doing any phone contact in between.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Well, if they're not prepared, well, I mean, yeah, you try and create the phone contact in between, but if they're not prepared to do it, it just comes back to the same old, you know, holding space for whatever happens and controlling what you can control and being there for your kids and focusing on your connection with your kids and your relationship with your kids. And there's not a lot you can do, you know. As I say, you try to create the contact in between. I mean, when my kids aren't with me, even though we're like 4 days, 3 days, we FaceTime every night, and vice versa when they're at his, you know, there's a FaceTime every night. But yes, if the other person, the parent, is not prepared to do that, there's not a lot you can do, you know, except just kind of try and, you know, focus on your own sort of relationship. And I would also say, you know, I think we dance at times this balance of, you know, don't ever slag your ex off. That would, to your kids, that's also a, you know, a caveat of mine. Don't ever slag your ex off to your kids, but don't make excuses for them either. There's a balancing act there. So, you know, if the kids are saying, you know, I want to talk to daddy or mummy or whichever it is, you know, you can just say, well, you know, it depends on the age of the kids. Well, you know, have you asked your dad or your mum about that? And no, well, do you want to? You know, because that's sometimes what I get the kids to do. It's like, well, that's your that's about you, and just, well, yeah, no, that's not something that your dad wants to do, and you don't get emotional about it. But there's a balance to be had, you know, between, I say, don't ever slag them off. Don't ever be the one coming with the slagging off, or don't ever, even when your child says something, like my child might say, oh, you know, dad shouted at me, you know, and I won't go, oh, that was dreadful, he shouldn't have done that. I just go, oh, okay, what happened? Or how did that feel for you? Or, you know, what was going on? And because my kids, if I shouted at them, because I don't shout and I don't punish, there are two things that don't happen in this house. If I shouted at them, they would call me on it, they call me on if I speak to them, but sarcastically, or if I kind of, you know, they'll call me. So if they say something like that to me, I'll go, well, and what did you say to dad about that? Or, you know, and they'll say, oh, I didn't say anything. Oh, because I wouldn't. And all right, okay, all right. Well, do you want to say something? No. All right, okay. So I don't cover, you know, either. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, so I'm not, you know, this, you know, my ex and I get on really well now, actually. So this, you know, but there's a balance. You know, you don't have to make excuses for the other person either. I don't believe in that, because I think that all that happens is you invalidate your child's experience. If your child is upset about something that your ex is doing or not doing, and you start covering it up and saying, oh, no, you've got that wrong. Oh, no, they didn't mean that. Or, oh, no, they're just this. Then you're invalidating their experience, and they're going to stop trusting you. And to me, my children's trust in me is numero uno. So I don't cover, but I don't slag.
No, that's great advice. Thank you. I think that's all the questions that we've had. And I think that's been brilliant. Thank you, Yvonne. Your advice has been absolutely fantastic. I know I've definitely made some notes and kind of taken a lot away from it, as I'm sure everyone else has.
Thank you. Not at all. Thank you.